All righty. Where are we at? Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining me again. It is late. I was delayed with good reason. Family first, you know what I'm saying? So, today we're getting into chapter 14 and 15. So, chapter 14 is called The Effortless Way. All right. There is a physics principle called least action. And what it is, it's when you use the minimum amount of energy required multiplied by the shortest possible amount of time required. Okay? The minimum amount of energy and the shortest possible amount of time. To go from one state of consciousness to another is a psychological movement. Using the least action in the psychological sense is utilizing assumption, which is visualizing your goal as a fact, believing that you are worthy and capable of achieving it. So, using the least action in the psychological sense. Mr. Goddard says, all creation is finished, and that what we see and experience, the contents of our own consciousness. Let me go over that again. Okay, so yeah, all creation is finished, and that we see or experience the contents of our own consciousness. So whatever we think our abilities are, our upper limits are, that's what we're living within currently. Whatever we think or feel is within our abilities to have. So if you're able to expand what you think you're capable of doing, if you're able to strongly believe that you can expand what it is you're capable of doing, that you're actually put here on this earth to live this existence with all the tools or the ability to call in the tools that you need when you need them in order to reach your highest potential, to achieve whatever goals you have, to live the life that you see yourself living spiritually, materially, socially, whatever it is. Because I believe last week I put a link under chapter 12 of Charlie Labali, Charlie Jabali. And he, I would consider him, based on his description of his process and success with manifestation, to be a master manifester. Whether it's calling in the monetary resources that he needs, being able to be put in contact to work with the people that he wants to work with. I don't know if he has much of a spiritual background. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube about him or involving him in interviews. I saved them, but I haven't watched them yet. But that one video that I put the link for, the way that he describes, he writes down his goals, and he's so high energy. It doesn't take him long to pull in what it is he's working towards. It doesn't take him long for his dots to connect, for his doors to open, for whatever needs to be put together in the background to come together, for him to be able to experience his goal, whatever it is that he's reaching for. And he has a practice of doing so. Mr. Goddard had a similar situation during his lifetime. And so understand that whatever the situation is that you're living in, whatever limitations that you're living within right now, that's based on your thoughts of what you're capable of. So by all means, expand that and put in the work as listed in the previous videos. Hone your skills to be able to call in the things from creation that are going to help you reach your goals. All right, so let me see. Mr. Goddard says, it is the function of an assumption to call back the excluded view and restore full vision. It is not the world, but your assumptions that change. Once again, whatever you think your abilities are, you can change your thoughts on those abilities and expand. Exercise the steps, exercise the steps and hone your skills. Do the thing. That's what we're here for. To live as expansively as possible. Believe me, the people who have whatever they have spiritually, whatever the levels they've gained spiritually, whatever levels they've gained materially, socially, it's because they expanded their belief to fit that. Because you can't go into certain circles without having the belief that you belong there. You're supposed to be there. When who was it? Whoopi Goldberg was at The View that she's on. When one of her co-workers, I think it was Sherry Shepherd, when Sherry Shepherd was invited onto The View to be with Whoopi Goldberg and company to banter back and forth about the things that they talk about, she did not feel sure. She did not feel secure that she had what she needed to be there. And Whoopi picked up on it. If she didn't say it explicitly, she picked up on that understanding. And she told her, she's like, look, you're supposed to be here. You have what it takes. You weren't invited for nothing. Okay, so don't back away. Grab this opportunity, walk into it, and have full confidence as you do it. Okay, because somebody recognized her and her skills. Somebody recognized her and her points of view, and they invited her onto the show, so she was supposed to be there. You know, her confidence level was something that she was given the opportunity to work on. And I believe that Miss Whoopi was a mentor to that extent for her to say, hey, come on now. We see you. Come on now. Bring your A game and be willing to expand. A similar thing for Cicely Tyson. Before she got into the acting world, she was working in a secretarial pool. And, she did not see herself as an actress or a model, but she came across someone just walking down the street one day who said, are you a model? You should be one. Look into that. Like her poise, how she carried herself, her attractiveness, had this person say this to her. Now, she laughed it off at first because her family background would have, looked down on that. You're like, don't be in the public eye. Don't be one of these famous people. People will be all in your business. And that's not the type of life you want to live if you're a righteous girl and that type of thing. She grew up in the church. But when she spoke out loud, and I'm sure she had the emotion behind it, that the secretarial pool was not going to be her last stop, that she had greater things to do in this life than sitting around for 30 years to earn a gold watch. Um, the doors started opening for her. And that first door was into modeling. That led her to someone who was doing stage acting, and that led her to do the training because she was resistant to doing film acting, and she was resistant to everything. But these doors kept opening, and because she knew she had a greater purpose in her life, she walked through those doors, fussing and carrying on, but she walked through and people were like, "Hey, okay, you think you need more education? Here's a couple people you can talk to, who you can work with, who you can study under in order to get the skills that you think you need, but we see you as a natural." But if it'll make you feel comfortable to go through the learning process, okay. And the doors kept opening for her because she spoke and she felt this was not going to be my last stop. Okay. Ooh. So it is not the world, but your assumptions that change. An assumption, Mr. Goddard says, brings the invisible into sight. It is nothing more or less than seeing with the eye of God, that is, with the imagination. All right. And he goes on to quote, "For the Lord seeth not a man as a man seeth. The Lord seeth not as a man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart." So that's kind of like what we were talking about last week. And that's from 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. Last week when we were talking about objective, objective thinking versus subjective thinking. Objective being the things that we can cast our eyes on, put our hands on, versus subjective being the more spiritual practice, a more internal, energetic interaction, thought process, way of thinking of things and doing things. Okay. So he also says the heart is the primary organ of sense, hence the first cause of experience. What causes you to experience new and different things is feeling it first. When you look on the heart, you are looking at your assumptions. Assumptions determine your experience. So the feelings that we have, okay, there's two parts to this thing. The way that we think about things, the way that we process things, the way that we envision our limitations or abilities, our expansiveness, and the emotions that we have behind it, what the heart says, the feelings that we have towards things, the feelings that we have towards ourselves, our abilities, what we see in the world, things that we may be looking at, observing. So it's a mental thing and it's an emotional thing, the heart-mind connection. He says, "Watch your assumption with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." And okay, so you get what you think. You get what you think you can get. You experience what you think you can experience. The present moment is all important, for it is only in the present moment that our assumptions can be controlled. Let me read that again. The present moment is all important, for it is only in the present moment that our assumptions can be controlled. So as you're sitting there thinking about the full scope of whatever it is you're thinking about, whether it's a goal, whether it's your current circumstances, as you're sitting there thinking about the full scope of it, you have the ability to control the way that it goes down. Whether you think positively about something, whether you think small about it, whether you think expansive of it, whether you're willing to grow past your current set of circumstances, whether you're willing to grow past your current understanding of a thing, you are in control of it in the moment that you're sitting there contemplating it, in the moment when you're sitting there thinking about it. All right. The future becomes the present when you imagine that you already are what you will be when your assumption is fulfilled. We talked about that. Now, if you're just now joining me, in this book, The Power of Awareness, Mr. Goddard states the basic principles: imagination, assumption, and emotion, as the basis from which to exercise manifestation. Okay? To bring forth what's already in creation into your reality, because you believe that's what you're supposed to have. As a man thinketh, so is he, right? But in each successive chapter, he fleshes it out a little bit more. He puts more emphasis on particular things. He throws more seasoning in there to help with your development process in being able to work with your imagination, to work with your assumption, to work with the energy that it takes to bring something out of the creation, to bring something out of the ether. Okay? He says, be still, which is least action, and know that you are that which you desire to be. Be still. Sit down, be meditative, contemplate, feel it, use the least amount of action, which is your assumption, and know that you are that which you desire to be. You already are what you desire to be. It's just a matter of fully accepting it, feeling it, living as if you're in it. What it is, it's a form of being in the zone, okay, with your thought processes, with your emotions, being in the zone of feeling the reality of what it is you're reaching for, being able to sit there and experience the taste of it, the smell of it, the dimensions involved in it, to really feel that, to get into it, to be absorbed. That's the word that he uses, to be absorbed in the process of having what it is you want before it's physically right there, so that you're calling it into you. And when you know that you've got it, is when it comes pretty much the way that you've experienced it, how you felt absorbed in it before it got to you. Okay, the end of longing should be being. So in the absorption of the feeling and the mental of having what it is your goal is, in the absorption of it, you're being what you already are, what you can already have. The end of longing should be being. So you're absorbed in it until you are able to be it. If it's almost like living in two time stations. You in this current moment, you feel it, you taste it, you touch it, and then you come back to your current place in this linear existence. And then you're just in anticipation of it coming together for you the way that you felt it, and the way you felt it and thought about it. And that's basically how the mechanics of it. So go back to the preceding chapters and pick out what I hope I put out there effectively, the different seasonings, the different meats of this process that he's describing in this book. And some things may work for you better than others. There's different ways of conducting the same science. He says, translate your dream into being. Perpetual construction of future states, which is basically what we're doing every day. If you have long-term goals that you're putting one foot in front of the other, taking the next step, the next step, the next step in order to get to it, you're doing it anyway. You're doing it probably more so on the objective scale, the objective realm in the material world. You're taking the steps in the material world probably more so than you're taking the steps in your internal world. But if you have the practice of meditating on the details and whatever, then you're probably already in the full swing of how it needs to be. But if you're missing some things, listening to the previous chapters and the coming chapters might give you that little bit extra that you need to hone the process in the best way for you, because it doesn't work exactly the same for everybody. Okay? So, perpetual construction of future states without the consciousness of already being them. That is, picturing your desire without actually assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the fallacy and mirage of mankind. It is simply futile daydreaming. And I wrote a wish, not a goal. So let me read that last part again, and then that'll be the end of this video. Translate your dream into being. Perpetual construction of future states without the consciousness of already being them. That is, picturing your desire without actually assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the fallacy and the mirage of mankind. It's almost like it's missing the mark because you're doing one part of it, but you're not doing the other part of it in conjunction that'll bring it into fruition. Alrighty, and with that, I'm going to end this video. I thank you for joining me on this chapter and this continued experience here. If you have any commentary, any questions, if you have any suggestions for other books that I might go through later, you can leave them down in the comment section, or you can contact me at pullyourpowerback@gmail.com. Until the next time, thank you and be well.